Neverending Chain by Dragon Translator. Chapter 9. You know of anyone better? Hiccup paused as he reached Gida. Wildfire leapt from Hiccup's hands onto Gida's shoulder. He bounced to Shadowfire's back and hopped over to both his parents, before running to stand on top of Shadowfire's head. Hiccup and Gida grinned. Toothless, Sharpshot, Frost, Pale, and Shadow snorted as Wildfire crowed like the roosters around Burke. Snowfire looked up at his brother and grunted. He calmly walked to the edge of Hiccup's hands, then turned and looked back at Hiccup. Hiccup smiled as the hatchling flared his wings and bowed, before he hopped onto Gida's shoulder and nuzzling his grandmother. Gida reached up and scratched the top of his head. "Good job," she murmured, and Snowfire cooed. Icewing chittered something that sounded like a question. Frostfire hopped to his mother's free shoulder. He shook his head and chirped. Icewing crooned. Frost's eyes narrowed and he chirped again, this time firmer than the last. Icewing crawled down Hiccup's arm and sat in his hands. She looked to his father and then to her grandmother. Gida stared down at Icewing. "You heard your father," Gida said. Icewing cooed, then looked back up at Hiccup. Hiccup lifted an eyebrow. "She wants to stay with you, Alpha," Palewing said. "We are not allowing her, because she jumped onto your shoulder earlier without permission." "Ah," Hiccup said. He lifted his hands so Icewing was level with his face. "I am not going to go against your parents' wishes, little one. They are not punishing you unfairly. I know you like sitting on my shoulder, but you can't just hop onto me without anyone knowing. Had I been in the forge and working, you might have gotten hurt. That's something I don't want. So, go on now. Listen to your parents, and be the good girl I know you can be." Icewing chittered and rubbed her tiny cheek against Hiccup's nose. She then turned and hopped into Gida's arms. Gida smiled. "You'll make a great father one day, Hiccup," she said. Hiccup coughed, rubbing the back of his neck. Then he frowned. "Wait, did you understand Frost a moment ago?" Gida laughed. "No, but I do know that tone he used. I used the same one when he and Shadow were growing up." "Oh." Gida grinned and then gestured with her chin to a point over his shoulder. Hiccup turned, finding Astrid staring at him with a soft smile. Hiccup walked over and taking her right hand with his left one. He resisted the urge to kiss her. There was more he had to do before he could. He looked to his father and tipped his head. Stoic grinned, moving to the middle of the circle. Hiccup took a deep breath as he felt a weight fall off his shoulders. His part in the event was over. He, as the Dragon's alpha, had welcomed the returning pairs home. Now his father could tell everyone about the celebration. Hiccup looked at Astrid. He leaned over and gave in to his desire. Astrid hummed and returned his soft kiss. "All right, you lot." Stoic's bellowing had Hiccup and Astrid pulling away from each other. They looked down, finding Stoic looking at everyone in the plaza. "We're having a feast for the returning tribe members, but at nightfall, all but my boy and his riders must be indoors. Arvendel's fire will blaze across the sky tonight." "And Hiccup's going to confront the Flightmare?" Mrs. Larson asked. "You know of anyone better?" Stoic questioned, looking to the woman. "No," Mrs. Lars said. "I just don't want the lad hurt. But I know I'll rest easier, knowing he'll be handling it. He'll keep us all safe." Hiccup felt his cheeks warm, as almost all the Vikings in the crowd agreed with Mrs. Larson's comment. He looked to Astrid. She smiled, caressing his cheek. "They see you, and know they will live to see another day," she whispered. Hiccup blinked. She had said similar words just after he had Mildy arrested. Hiccup sighed, his brow furrowing. Astrid squeezed his hand. "You got this," she whispered. "We are all with you." She paused and laid her palm against his cheek. "I am with you." "Thank you," Hiccup whispered. He knew her last comment meant more than just this night, and more than just her being at his side when he confronted the Flightmare. He pulled her close, wrapping his arm around her. I know I could not do any of this without you, he added in a whisper. He could not. Without her at his side, Hiccup knew he would never have made it to this night. He would not have handled the dragons calling him their alpha, or the tribe accepting him. He knew the wounds inflicted from his past would have festered without her love to soothe and heal him. Toothless and Sharpshot's friendship would have helped, but Astrid's steadfast support and love gave Hiccup the will to forgive. Her acceptance of his touch and his kisses gave Hiccup the proof he needed to know that he was worthy and that he had worth. I love you, Astrid whispered. I love you too. No! Stoic bellowed again, pulling Hiccup and Astrid apart. Let's feast! Night fell, and green fire erupted across the skies. Hiccup and those who were going with him flew out of the village and headed inland. Hiccup waited until they were far away enough from the village before holding his hand up. The dragon shifted into a hover. Hiccup tapped Toothless's neck. The Night Fury flew a bit forward, then flipped over and came back so that they faced the group. Hiccup looked at Fishlegs and tipped his head. I've studied the previous times the Flightmare came to Berk, Fishlegs said. It's always followed the same path. It starts in the northern swamp and follows the river into the village. Everyone, Hiccup said, we are giving the Flightmare a chance to speak before anything is decided. You sure Astrid should be here? Snotlout asked. Hiccup's eyes narrowed. Snotlout jerked, though that might have had something to do with Hookfang jostling his rider. I'm not saying anything bad. Snotlout continued. I know the Hoffersons have been desperate to clear Finn's name. I'm just concerned. I'm not going to attack on sight, Astrid said, and Hiccup knew she was talking through gritted teeth. I am going to follow Hiccup's orders. I do follow our chief's son's orders, Snotlout. Snotlout's eyes narrowed. My grandfather told me to do that, and you know it. Enough! Everyone looked at Hiccup. Snotlout, I understand your concerns, but Astrid and I have already spoken, and she is staying. Gita, lead them on to the swamp. Astrid, please remain. Aye, Hiccup. Gita said, All right, you lot, move on. Hiccup waited until they were all out of earshot before he looked over at Astrid. I love you, he said. Astrid grunted. While I enjoy hearing that, I know that is not what you want to say. What do you think I want to say? Reprimand me for that snide to Snotlout. His concerns were valid. My commenting on the issue with Old Man Jorgensen was not. Hiccup tilted his head. I wasn't going to reprimand you, he shrugged. I understood why you said it. Snotlout speaks without thinking, even if he's gotten better at obeying and not showing off all the time. Are you okay? Astrid stared down at Stormfly's saddle. I will be once this is over, and we are back in Berk. Just know, in all things, Astrid, I want you at my side. I trust you. I know you will have my back. Astrid lifted her gaze. Always, Hiccup. Then let's go after them. I want to be able to enjoy Arvindale's fire this year. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that one. I love that bit. Oh, I've waited to do that one for a while. That bit with Mrs. Larson is just gorgeous, and all the other dragons and all the other Vikings agreeing and cheering, and I love it. And also Snotlout's getting better, and he's concerned for Astrid rather than taunting her, which I definitely approve. Anyway, you guys know the drill. Like, comment and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. Have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye my guys, gals, and albino pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.